4:30. Carrie let me know she might be a little bit late. She has a work meeting that's running a little longer than expected, but we can go ahead and get started since we have a quorum. So I'll call to order this special school board meeting on April 22nd. We have 4 items on our agenda for open study session, and then we do have an exempt session at the end. So I guess we're starting out with in-person learning, discussing the current status, and I'm assuming looking ahead for next year as well. So Alex, are you leading this one off?
Yes, please. Thank you. This is just an opportunity for the board and members of the cabinet that I asked to be here. I asked Sally if I could have a few of the cabinet members here, and she said that would be fine. But this is just an opportunity to share our ideas, our perceptions of how things are going, and to share information regarding our in-school or in-person learning. So as you know, things are going very well. Our teachers are happy, our students are happy, our families are happy, but we have school districts around us that are bringing more students back to in-person learning. And so that has led us to the discussion for today to talk about where we're at, what we would like to see continue, and talk about the fall in terms of our program. So I would like to ask the board members to maybe give us their perceptions and thoughts about our current in-person learning model. And then we can go from there.
Well, I know you and I have had a conversation about how it's going, and based on what little feedback I've heard from folks in the public, I've heard just positive things. It seems like it's going pretty well. I know staff has worked very hard. Students seem to enjoy being back in school, at least the ones who have decided to come back in the hybrid model. And then I think it's nice that we're able to also continue to offer the online model for those families that are more comfortable with that. So I've only heard really positive things about how it's going so far.
Thank you, Sally. Sandy, how are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. In all honesty, I've kind of been in my own little cave. I'm not hearing a whole lot, but based on the feedback that we were getting or have been getting all year long, I can't imagine people are going to be too upset with coming back in-person learning for more days of the week. I think that's got to be something that the community has indicated in the past that they want, and I would certainly believe that to still be true.
Okay, Lynn?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be important to understand the challenges with adding more days, to really be able to give an opinion. But I think I have heard positive things. I know we have very little days left in the school year. To make a huge shift again, adding additional days, I don't know what kind of logistics that requires and the challenges that creates for the district. And so I'm kind of on the fence. I think that, if it's a costly, cumbersome thing to shift again, I think, Alex, I've talked with you before where it's like we'd have to renegotiate, contracts and, that takes time. And so I'm not sure that with this short amount of days that we have left, that trying to get more days in for the very end of the school year is the most important thing. I really think our time should be talking about and being completely ready for that, and hopefully bringing people back for more days in the fall. But like I said, I'm not in the thick of it like you guys are, so I don't know what those challenges really are.
Thank you, Lynn. In terms of the fall, We're either going to come back in person 100%, or we're going to come in back into the fall in a hybrid model with maybe a few different twists, and of course online. And we know how to do all three. And so I've been discussing these options with Cabinet and with others, and we feel very confident, depending on where the pandemic is in the fall, we're ready to go in terms of either one of those options. So as far as our planning for the fall, we're ready to go. The question is, to make another change at this time, is it worth it with about 35 days of school left? Robert, do you have any comments on that?
Well, to help put it in a little bit more perspective, I did watch the governor today and in the latest there and what COVID's doing statewide and in our community. And, you know, we're on an upward trend again. And right now they don't see an end to that trend. One of the things that came out as part of this is that the numbers of new COVID cases are no longer the base variant that we've been working through. Is that most new cases are in the state of Washington, the UK variant. And so that's a very troubling new trend, is with cases going higher, and it's they're not certain what that means. They know that the UK variant is less effective, less affected by the vaccines that are currently being distributed. And there are all kinds of hope for additional booster vaccines perhaps in the future, but they're not ready to go. And so since we're talking about the span between now and 35 days, and specifically Mason County, our numbers have been steadily climbing, and there's no indication that's actually reversing anytime soon. We actually have a case right now that we began an investigation in this afternoon with in one of our schools, that we're with a student who is COVID positive, and we're trying to determine their access to and where they were from the time they started symptoms. So this is still very real to us. And so I think that, you know, when we look and just be honest, like when we prepared for hybrid, it took us weeks. We had to extend it. We were very thankful the school board worked with us and to extend that date. And we could not just next week go to a 4-day week. In order for us to do it right, so people, for our students and our staff are prepared, and that it goes smoothly, this would take us weeks at a minimum. I couldn't imagine doing it in less than 3 or 4 weeks. And then we're even that much closer to June 11th. And so it seems like everybody's put so much work and effort, and they're comfortable with the status quo, with the, you know, even though there's there's all kinds of new things that are coming out that say perhaps things that can be safely done to do this or do that. People feel very comfortable with the model that we work hard to put together, and they see that it works, because as there have been COVID cases that have been within the district, we've been able to keep the transference happening in our building, and we've been able to keep them contained. And people see that the system works, and our staff gets more and more comfortable with it every day. But as we start to talk about expansion right now, especially without planning being in place and what that would look like specifically, there's, you know, we have a lot of staff that are very concerned about that. We start talking with our bargaining groups, and we're in the process of negotiations. And so when we talk about these things, people want to know what the answer is before they want to commit. They want to make sure it's going to be safe. And it's just very early as we're starting to talk about this. We really feel like what the school board and what the district has done, and the partnership that we've had, and how we've handled the pandemic, and we've looked at the facts, and specifically what's happening in our community, and being very methodical and thoughtful about all of it, has been very effective for us. And so we just really want to maintain the status quo because we're running out of runway for the remainder of the school year.
Thank you, Robert. Brenda and Terry, can you comment on the one aspect that was mentioned, the unions? Can you talk a little bit about that? It's not just shifting gears and just moving ahead and saying we want to add 1,000 kids or 500 kids. We would have to go to the table. Is it? And Brenda and Terry, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Yeah, we have we had a really smooth, Robert's right. We had a really smooth transition coming in. And the reason for that is because we did sit down and talk and go through scenarios and make sure that it was very safe, but also productive for students. And so it's gone real well. Not true in all districts. And during the time that we came back, one of the questions that SEA in particular had, but other unions, was, is this a short-term thing, or are we thinking about till the end of the year, or what's the thinking? And we said, well, it can always change, but we're coming back to a hybrid. We're anticipating that's going to go the remainder of the year. So we've already had conversations about next year, and they've been very, very positive about, coming back full-time next year, as Alex mentioned. So that's going real well. It would be, nothing's impossible, of course. But to now say to the association, we have, 35 days, 32 days, whatever it is. But what we'd like to do is we'd like to come back to the bargaining table and negotiate coming back full time. There's going to be that would be quite a reaction from the association, in particular because of what Robert is saying. I get zero information about people not wanting kids back full time. Teachers say great, but with where we are in the pandemic, it would take us a little time to get that straightened out. Could it be done? Of course, anything can be done. The other thing to consider, though, I would ask you to consider, if you would, we're scheduled to go into open bargaining for the SEA contract on Wednesday of next week. Okay. Well, we believe, and I think they would agree, we have a great relationship. We're looking forward to sitting down and going through the contract and seeing if there's any ways to enhance it. But the other thing is we would have to put that on hold if we go back. And that's going to push things. And, just for me, I would hate to go into a bargaining group with another change, another upset. I know it's, not everybody's negotiating contracts, but both our SEA and our para contracts are open this year. And we're looking forward to having smooth and cooperative negotiations. And so, yeah, would we need to sit down? Of course, it's a change in working conditions. Do we believe we could do that productively for next fall? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, we could. The only other thing I might add, if I may, and that is that, we don't have any more paras. There are no paras. And if we were to go full time with all the students down in order to get enough kids through the process in the morning, we would need some help. And that concerns me. And I know Brenda has concerns. I'll let her speak to that in terms of the buses, because we're a busing district. So we have to consider that. But yeah, I would have some, to be honest with you, I would have some concerns at this point. And frankly, my biggest question is, what do we gain? So anyway, I think Robert said it well. I think Dr. Postle said it well, but I feel like things are moving very productively right now. And I think that's because of some real good planning from everyone.
Alex, and there's one main point that I think or one additional point I missed what I wanted to mention, and that is, even if we were able to set aside 3 or 4 weeks of planning to do this, there's really no time for anyone to do it. The hybrid model takes a lot of our time to keep it running, and all the administrators are working 60, 70-hour weeks, building administrator, district administrators, to keep this system going, and to then also add, the appropriate time that we need to plan. It's not like what we did when we planned for hybrid, where we didn't have people in our buildings and we're going to set aside, but we're in the thick of it with our students and everything every day, and especially for such a short period of time, it would be really a big challenge logistically.
Robert, welcome, Carrie. Brenda, any comments?
I
As
would
far
like
as
to just
some of the issues?
reiterate a little bit that Terry said about the negotiation process. You know, it took us quite a while to reach agreements on MOUs with all of these groups, and they would have to be redone to come back 4 days a week or whatever we chose to do, because they really addressed the hybrid model. At that point in time, we weren't bringing back everything. So that would take some time. We, like you said, we would have to push off their regular contract negotiations till later and just focus on MOUs to try and get them up and going. I am concerned about busing. We've done some research this week. Holly was great. She called a ton of districts for me to talk to other transportation directors to figure out how people are doing things. Seeing a couple different things. We have districts around us in the metropolitan areas that really don't have a lot of bus ridership. Their kids are close to their schools. They don't ride the bus, so they're not worried about how many kids they have on the bus. We don't have that luxury here in Shelton. We are a very rural community. You know, some of our bus routes are an hour to an hour and a half long. So, you know, to have more kids on the bus, I think we could potentially have an issue with negotiating that agreement. And then, you know, also with food services, Catherine made a few phone calls too, and we found some interesting things about that. Some districts allow their students to eat in the classrooms. We've tried to stay away from that just because of, you know, the cleaning things and that type of thing. But we did find a district out there that doesn't serve food to their students during the day at all. They send a sack home at the end of the day with them. So these little kids are there all day long with no food. I really have a problem with that. I don't want to do that. So we're seeing some things out there. We did a lot of planning to get us up and running for hybrid. And I believe that by delaying it when we did, it went off, in my opinion, without a hitch, clear through the process. And I worry that we wouldn't have any planning time, you know, to bring them back before the end of the school year. I think we should plan for the fall that we are bringing our kids back, because that's what we want to do. But for now, I think it would just be too big of a disruption to the whole situation. That's just my opinion.
Carrie, we're talking about in-person learning, of course, and just sharing our thoughts, our perceptions, our ideas, our concerns. Your thoughts, please.
Sorry that I was late. I'm coming right off of a work meeting, so I missed the first part of that. I guess I'm just concerned because I haven't heard about any of the planning. I have children in school, and I know the benefits that they are experiencing when they're actually in the building. I'm seeing neighboring school districts like the Olympic School District planning this. And what I'm hearing, and I jumped in late, is just a lot of all of the reasons why we can't be doing this. And it's very similar to me about my own feelings, how it seemed like such a push to get us to go back to school. And I'm just wondering, you know, if we're planning this for the fall, you know, are we looking at cohort groups right now and seeing where are places where you could be increasing some things? Is there room in the elementary schools? Maybe there isn't in the secondary schools. But any of these kids are going to benefit with sooner face-to-face instruction. And if other school districts are doing this, it's not just Olympia, there's many others, and many others aren't. So I'm not saying we have to be doing this, but as a parent with kids in schools, it's concerning to me that I'm on the school board and I haven't heard about the plans to come back. It's concerning that when I do hear about things, it's all the reasons why we can't or not yet. And I'm wanting to hear how we can. And I want to hear where we can and when we can. And not just, I don't want this to be put off until we have a new superintendent in place either. I think that these things should be planned beforehand. I am concerned about, you know, the negotiations around MOUs, when that needs to start and how long that might take. You know, how is Olympia doing this? How are they going to begin to do this in May? You know, those are questions, you know, I don't know. Can we look at what because they're going to 4 days of full instruction and combining cohort groups.
They have one union for everybody. All their classified staff, for example, is under one umbrella. We don't have that luxury. We have to deal specifically with each union. And, you know, contrary to maybe what you're hearing about Olympia, I talked with a superintendent from Olympia, and it's not as rosy as some people may think. They have their set of challenges and problems. There's no question about that. But this is Shelton. And I think that we have planned extremely well to bring our kids back. We've done it safely with clear and precise health and safety protocols and with a well-organized instructional program. You know, when we have our board meetings, I don't hear anybody coming to the board to complain about what we're doing right now. We get no complaints. I've had no complaints by phone, by email, by text from parents telling me, Alex, you need to do something different. We're upset. I don't get any of that. And everybody that I talk to, they're very satisfied with the direction that we're going. In terms of next fall, we're prepared. We're prepared to do whatever we need to do based on where the pandemic is. If it's in-person instruction, hey, we know how to teach kids when they're in our building. If it's the hybrid model, we're in the process of thinking about ways that we could tweak the hybrid model if we need to in relation to the fall. And if we had to incorporate online learning, if the pandemic goes south, we're prepared to teach our kids online. We know what we're going to do. It's dependent on the circumstances and the direction we get from you, the board, and from the state. But we're prepared to launch one of those three programs or a combination thereof in the fall. But what we're concerned with right now more than anything is getting through this year at the same level of competence that we have been. But you're the school board, and if you want us to increase the numbers, just know we will do that, and we're very capable of doing it, but it's going to require planning and communication and cooperation from our unions and from our families. You know, this would be another change for our families also, not just for the staff, not just for students, but there have been 9 major changes this past year that people have had to adjust to. And we've got 35 days of school left. Would I like to see more kids come to school? Absolutely. But now, today, what was it, Robert? We're at 149 per 100,000, and the information that you're getting and that I'm getting is that this is going to increase. So I don't know. It seems to me that we're still in the pandemic. We've got to be very careful. We had a child today in our preschool program that contacted and tested positive for COVID. But I'm not worried, quite frankly, what other school districts are doing. We're just as smart as they are, and we're just as capable as they are, and we can implement any program that they are. But what we're doing is we're looking at ourselves. We're looking at our kids. We're looking at our community, and we're moving forward in confidence that we're doing the right thing. Now, if you want more kids to come to school, we can do that. You know, if we want more kids to come K2, we can do that. As far as, we've got about 1,000 or I think about 1,200 kids that are online right now. Online learning, about 1/3, close to 1/3 of our kids are online. You know, we could say to them, how many of you would like to be involved in in-person learning? Well, we'd have to survey and find out, and then we would have to develop a plan to bring them back. But again, I'm worried about the unions and how they're going to feel. I'm worried about going into negotiations very shortly. And right now we have harmony with our unions. We've had harmony for years, and we've got a great relationship with them. I worry about if we made a change right now, I don't know what the repercussions would be. And they would be repercussions that we would have to deal with from now into the fall. And with a new superintendent coming in, I think we've got to be very careful with our unions. Um, So, it just depends what the school board wants. We can do anything. If you want us to bring more kids back, we'll go to work on it tomorrow. But I just want to make sure you understand that it's not easy to do. It's not. If you're going to do it right. Because you're going to be disrupting teachers, families, and kids. And the support service.
If I can speak up for just a second. I mean, what I am trying to say for myself is I did not feel like I have been hearing about any planning for increased face-to-face instruction. I'm not saying that we need to be like another school district, but I do think we need to look at other school districts and see how they're doing things. I would like to know, how, like, we do know that it's going to be quite a bit of work, but I'd like to hear about how we can bridge some of those gaps, how we can look at where some of these things can be done. And, if we're not going to, I have not been having these discussions. So if I'm not hearing about it, I don't know what's happening. This has not been brought up about when we're looking at doing this, unless, to me, this planning needs to be starting like now. Hybrid is not where our school district is meant to stay. And so what are the things that we can be doing for whenever we get a chance to do that? I'm not saying tomorrow we need to bring all these students back. So I hope that that's not the way that this sounds to anyone. But I am just trying to say, and what I was expressing in the email is that I haven't heard about the planning. I have not heard what we're doing to look at moving to a 3-foot rule, when, because that change has taken place. And clearly other school districts have looked at that and decided to move forward with that. So I'm just saying, where are the planning and the discussions on some of these things for when we can do that? Because as a family and with people in school, they're not just thinking that the school year is, a few weeks away and boom, that's done. I'm thinking as a parent with children, I'm going to be in school for going into next year and all of that. I want to know, how is this going to look? What are we doing to prepare for that? How are we moving along? What are the discussions that need to be taking place as we move forward with that? It's not just a matter of ending in June and taking a break and then magically everything works out when my kids go back to school in the fall.
Well, we would plan appropriately, just like we did in terms of planning and bringing kids back in a hybrid model. We would not do something without very detailed planning. We've started to talk about what we're going to do in the fall. And as I mentioned, we're prepared to bring our kids back. If all kids are coming back in the fall, we know how to do that. In terms of a hybrid model, and that could happen depending on where the pandemic is, we know how to do that work, and we'll probably do it much better in the fall than we're doing now. And if we have to go online in total, which is a possibility depending on the pandemic, we're going to be better than ever. So it's not that we haven't been talking about it or planning. We have been talking about it. We have been planning. But we're working with OSPI. We're listening to the governor. We're watching where the pandemic is going. I can assure you, Carrie, that we will be ready to do whatever is necessary to bring our kids back in the fall, just like we did when we brought the kids back in a hybrid model.
Well, one of the things that has been brought up too is that if we are going to move away from the K-12 platform, do our teachers have the training to move to the next platform? Is that, Google Classroom, primarily? Is everyone aware of that? I don't think that, is that something that we're announcing? These are the questions that I have,
That's a very good
as we look
question.
at the next school year, training that's needed for that, letting parents and students know that we're moving from this and we're going to this, when it is appropriate to let them know those things, because it's not trying to inundate everyone with a million changes. But I figured that there was planning going on. I'm just saying, as a school board member And as a parent, I am not clear on what that planning
Well,
is and what that's looking like.
to be honest with you, we haven't finalized any plans, and I'll let Kelly talk about that. As far as the K-12 platform, that's a very expensive platform, close to $2 million. My recommendation and my conversation has been that I believe our teachers can use Google platform and just do just as well, if not better. But to spend $2 million again on K-12, I would not recommend that. But Kelly, you can comment on that.
Sure, Harry, we have been doing a lot. I think we're just all going 100 miles an hour, and perhaps we haven't closed that communication with you guys yet. Mary Ann and I just attended the first session with the ESC where they're working with us on our plan for the fall. It's called, oh my God.
Recovery plan.
Thank you. It's our recovery plan. So part of that is putting all the work together. You have to do some behind the scenes things. So we're moving forward with that. As far as the platform, if we have to go to hybrid, we've already talked about this, that it would be Google. We have had discussions among the teacher groups. Mary Ann and I are meeting I believe it's next week, with our contact with the ESC, because we get free classes through them, and that is who we're going to have set up some, like Google Classroom, Google Meet, Google Docs, all the Google training we could possibly want. So now that we've decided that, what we'll need to do is do another survey of the I hate to say survey, but another survey of the teachers to see when the best time would be for them. Do they want it now? Do they want it at the end of in June? Do they want it in August? People are tired. They're kind of trying to move along with things, but we're trying to do our best to accommodate that piece of it. Even if we don't go hybrid and we're all back, and I don't even like to talk about hybrid in the fall. I'm all for we're back. But we do want to continue and capitalize on the use of technology that we've gained. I mean, we've gained a ton from that. So we're also discussing, if we're not teaching live online, could we still have a place like Google, or there are several others that we could post lessons where we're introducing something, and kids at home could go back and review those lessons. Or they could post their work through Google at, say, midnight when they finish whatever they're doing. So that's what we're moving forward on that front with. We've had lots of discussions. We'll continue to have lots of discussions along with changing. We have a change with priority standards. So we want that all interwoven together. And at the same time, like you said, try not to inundate people with too much information at one time. We're also right now working on what the 100% online school will look like in the fall, and how that's very different from what we're doing right now. It's the ALE version of it. And we don't want to confuse, we're trying to be very gentle with it, not to confuse parents, because it's very different from what they're seeing right now with their kids. So that's kind of where we are in all the planning pieces of it. The one thing that I have to consider if we went back any sooner before the end of the year is I try to take it down to the kid level. And for our kiddos who've had lots of changes, they might possibly have to have different teachers again. If we brought, kids back now before the end of the year, because we've moved our teachers around. So like, I'm thinking of a particular teacher right now that isn't teaching second grade. She's teaching this other group online. She might have to come back to that, which would mean the kids will get another teacher. And those are just the things that I'm trying to avoid, are any more things with them. And I have talked to my old school district, which was Tumwater, and they're facing all this too, but they had some weird things that I shouldn't say weird, not in a meeting. They had some different sort of things that they did. Like their kids were able to eat in the classrooms, and they hired a ton of EAs, and which cost a pretty penny. And they used other teachers for their virtual training, which also cost a pretty penny. And I think that's why they're able to do some of the things now that they are moving into, but they are also not we follow our guidelines very strictly. I'll just say that. And we are to the letter of it. And not everybody is. Like the eating thing is really hard with the 6-foot distancing. And the other consideration that just keeps going around in my mind is everybody's looking at a 4-day a week instead of a 5-day a week. And that brings up concerns for me for daycare, because I've heard some of the parents say that their daycares won't allow the kids to stay just 1 day in daycare, that they want them there at least like 3 days a week, or the parents will still have to continue to pay for the 3 days and only go 1. So that's a worry for me. And I don't even understand really why they're only looking at 4 days a week, but that's what they're doing. So that's where we are. If you have any questions about the planning, Marianne and I are knee deep in it right now.
I think one of my questions is kind of falls on what Carrie was saying too. And I was saying that, I'd like us to really focus on what we're doing in the fall. I think it's important that we get feedback now, though, from parents and students and teachers on what lessons did we learn from this, and how there's a lot of great ideas out there that, we just weren't able to implement because of, either the program that we had or, kind of moving our MOUs or moving in the direction we were. But I think that before we set anything in stone this fall, that we actually get that feedback. And while it's fresh in people's minds, while they're actually, in it, I think that now is the time to be looking at that for fall and saying, okay, if we had to be hybrid, or if we had to be, are we still going to have a group of parents who want their kids learning online? And are we, could we accommodate that? And then if we are coming back full time, or if, there's a lot of lessons that we've learned. And I think that's kind of what Carrie's saying too, is like, we haven't, as the school board, we know we've heard the complaints, this year, but we haven't heard the solutions. But obviously there has been some, or I think we'd still be hearing the complaints. But I think, kind of keeping us in the loop on that part too, on what did we learn? How are we modifying that? And then how are we going to incorporate those kids and their parents' feedback into a model for fall?
We have, so you're all aware, we're just about to send out a survey for the online school. We're sending it to parents to see actually how many we really would have. I'm sorry. It's going to go out on Monday, I believe Monday, and we're going to have all week for parents to give us feedback on that. Again, we were trying to be very careful about how we worded it because it is very different. And then we thought we would go from there, because we don't even know if people are interested in their littles attending it, or if it will just be more of a secondary thing. But we're ready to go whichever way they decide. We're ready to jump. But that was our very first thing, was to survey them. I like the idea of sending out another survey after that, though, to get like what worked, what didn't work, what things you want to keep, what things you want to get rid of. I like that idea too.
Marianne, anything that you would like to add?
I would just like to say, we've dedicated our admin meetings every Wednesday. We spend an hour, and cabinet is there, and the whole purpose of that hour's meeting is to talk about what we're doing now and how can we perfect on it, but also talking about next year. As soon as that 3-foot rule came out, all of our building principals came to the table and they were talking about classrooms and how could we bring in more tables, and they were getting excited. And then we got to lunch. Okay, now we've got to do 6 feet. So we have a group of administrators, we have teachers and staff who are innovative and creative. So we can do anything you ask us to do. Are there barriers? Yes, but we can be creative if you want us to bring more students in. But we have been dedicating every Wednesday at our principals meetings to talk about now and the future and to prepare. So.
Well, and I guess that's what my question is, because if we stay with this 3-foot rule and 6 feet for lunch, music, anything that's going to be a riskier behavior without a mask on, do we have a plan for that? And if we have a plan for that you're saying you're ready for at any point in time, I guess that begs the question from me as a parent, is it just because we're looking at a few weeks before the end of a school year, we're saying we don't want to implement a bunch of that? Or if there's space in elementary schools to do that, I guess, I mean, I understand the thing with childcare, but if there's space to bring back elementary students 5 days a week, if you're looking at kindergartners or first graders, people that doing online school really, I don't think works. I guess that's what I'm wondering about. And I'm not pushing to do this by the end of the year, but I'm just thinking if you're saying you can do this at any time, or we've already planned this, I guess, what are the missing components?
Well, the great news is our building principals have been able to add more kids for in-person learning. So on a weekly basis, they're increasing their numbers. Shelton High School's done a wonderful job. All of our buildings have. We continue to have, Terry, stop me if I'm wrong, but we still, we're in need of paraeducators. So when we talk about supporting lunches, we still have those openings and we're just not getting applicants. So while I say we have a plan, we're ready, just tell us. It's the staffing needs that we have, that we're just not getting applicants to hire people to do the plans that require the staffing. I mean, we have building admin out there, which they do and they don't do, but they're out there doing lunch duty, they're doing recess, they're doing before and after school. So it's all hands on deck. We just would like to welcome people to apply for our positions that are open, so that we can support these plans about bringing more kids in more days a week.
So that would still be the barrier in the fall.
We hope not, Carrie. We're hoping, by then I'm hoping things change a little bit with people's priorities and whether they want to come back to work or not. We honestly, because I did this work, so I know, we went down every substitute para that we could find, offered them a job. Then we went to the substitutes for teachers to have them subs for the paras. And we're out. We literally are out of people. And I'm hoping that there are no teachers that are gone all at once, because I don't know who's going to be teaching then. But we definitely are going to have to do a big campaign to get more people to apply for these jobs and somehow make them look more attractive. The thing that we're not ready for, Carrie, it is the spacing at lunch. If they keep us to 6 feet, we're not ready for that right now. The 6 feet is a problem. And we're still working on that and working on solutions. Having them in the classroom would be fine, except for then you would have to have an EA in every class. Like you said, we come up to these barriers and like, oh man, another barrier. But that is something. But for summer school, we are practicing the 3-foot rule. And so, Robert, we were really excited about that, because Robert was like, we're going to practice it at summer school, see how much how many kids we can get into a space, what it looks like, can we accommodate that for eating, because if the CDC will back off the 6 feet and go to 3 feet, I think we're in. We're in. So we are going to try that during summer school. I'm pretty excited about it too.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because it is things like that are helpful for me to hear, that there's a plan to implement that in a smaller setting, to see how that works and to see how we can adjust from that. That's exactly what I like hearing. So thank you very much for that.
Welcome, Sally Brownfield. Any comments? We're talking about in-person learning. Well, you're still mute.
I'm sorry. I was just having some technical difficulties. I've been having trouble with Zoom all day. I'm on and then I'm totally a blue screen and different things. So, no, I do appreciate hearing that things are going to be looked at and tried out during summer. And seeing how we can go forward and adjust. I
Sally,
mean,
do you feel
we
that we should bring more kids back at this time?
I think we still need to be cognizant of what the recommendations are of all of the entities we're listening to, the CDC, the state, and our local health authorities, I think is number one. I have heard and seen from a lot of parents, both in our district and in other districts, and know that, you know, things are being done in different ways in different places. I know at least some people did go out and look at some other places before we did bring our kids back. I want our kids to be safe, but we, and how can we do that and give them all of the academic and social emotional well-being that we can do? It's all part of the package. So I think we need to have all the information before we can look at bringing people back.
No doubt
Just
about that.
Shelton School District has stolen 2 of my employees. They're now parapros.
Sorry, Sally, but we had to.
So I am desperately looking for employees as well. So I think everybody is. So we do need to look at the whole picture of what it takes, and because I'm doing the same thing right here. We're going to open, and we will open as fully as we can, but we can only do that. I just had to go before the council today and do all this talking about our programs. I cannot promise you that we're going to have space for every single child, because we have to have enough teachers and assistants. We have a ratio that we need to adhere to very strictly. And the school district has a little bit more leeway there, but still we need to have the health and safety guidelines. I know the numbers are going up. I just, keep reminding everybody we're still in this. We can't let up, but our numbers are going up. That how do we I'm really hoping that looking at some of the summer school adjustments are going to help us know how to go forward. I know I know kids are suffering. Um, I know there's families. I have families out here that are not sending their kids to school at all. They've made those decisions. And everybody's in a different place. I know other places that they're going back full time with all kids. Most of those places that I see that happening are a lot smaller school systems. We do have to make the decisions that are right for our families. Yeah, we're surveying people to death. And I don't know if we're getting all the voices, even then when we do that. I can see value if it's a healthy situation. I can see value in having more kids in the classroom. Yeah, I can see value in those poor little kids that's supposed to be kindergartners that have never been on a campus. Now we're taking them to the next step, and they've never even been on the school grounds. So I'm concerned about transitions. too. I mean, that's huge. I mean, I'm always concerned about transitions, whether we have a pandemic or not, that we need to do a lot of work on that. But I think we made a plan and we went forth with it. And maybe with all the time and the energy that it took doing the superintendent search and all that, and that was so much energy on everybody's part, that, yeah, as we're looking forward, have we said what is the plan going to be? Maybe that hasn't been communicated. So that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, I want to see kids back in school. I want to see it done safely.
Thank you. Kelly?
So on Monday or Tuesday at our next board meeting, I'm going to share with you all the plans that we're working on right now for summer school. And I really think that you'll be pleased with what we're looking at as far as social emotional and the transitions for the new kinders coming in and our kinders going up. And then for our 8th graders going into high school, we have some really innovative, I feel like they're innovative anyway, innovative things going on, working with some counselors and having them there during summer school, which is something we don't normally do. And just kind of trying to look at it this in a different way and smooth those transitions. They have transitions anyway, but to actually have them there, get them comfortable working on the social emotional, making them feel safe again at school, getting them excited about school. I really think you'll be pleased to know that, Sally, because there are a lot of things that we've looked at for transition and social emotional.
We've even looked at transitioning this year's 9th graders into 10th grade.
10th grade, yep. We're trying every single thing that we can possibly think. This is a good summer for it too, because we do have more resources than we normally have. And so we're really looking at much larger participation than we've had before. And then also serving different things, you know, maybe working with our counselors to have small groups of kids that have disengaged and are not, you know, not here, and having them come in and having little small one-on-one or group sessions with the counselors to see what we can do and why they disengaged, and, you know, trying to look at it from that perspective. I'm super excited about it, but we'll present that all on Tuesday, I think it is.
So Sally, does the board have any direction that they want to give us on this issue at this point in time? I will tell you that we will be prepared to hand off to the board and the new superintendent a very detailed plan for the fall. That will not be a problem. It will not be something that we won't be able to produce. But I guess what I'm asking is, does the board want us to increase in-person instruction at this time?
I am not, based on the conversation tonight, that's not what I'm hearing. Mostly what I'm hearing is that communication, I think, needs to happen. And I think that needs to be round trip communication, not just with the board, but with our families. And that may mean surveying, working with our principals. And I know we are in the beginning stages of that. But I know that at the same time that families are going to be looking, as we wrap up this school year, what's next year going to look like? And I think we're going to see that more than ever this year. You know, we see that anyway at the end of the school year, but I think we're going to see that more than ever this year, just because this has been a year out of normal. And so as much as we can communicate that and over communicate that and over communicate it again, I think we'll probably, to the point where they get tired of hearing from us, I think is going to be really important. And not just communicating what we're doing, but also soliciting information. So I think that's what I'm hearing from the board. And I'm seeing a few nods. Any other board members have a comment along those lines?
I want to just say one more thing though, too. And I apologize if you all feel like I'm comparing us to the Olympia School District, but being as they are a neighboring school district that we already have families whose children go over there and go to school, and then they play sports with kids over here or on different teams, we will hear about their school district going back to more days a week. And some families, that's going to cause questions for our school district and comparisons and wondering what we're doing or whether or not they might want to take their child somewhere else that provides more face-to-face instruction. So those are the things that do weigh on my mind as we look at this. And that's why it just, when I'm being told that they already have a plan in place and they are going to be implementing it, that, that's where it caught me off guard, that why am I not hearing about this within our own school district? Why am I not hearing about some of the steps that we can have? Because, this is about trying to keep our families and our schools, intact and interested in being here. These are the things that weigh on my mind about a school district that is right there, that I already have, friends of my own children go to school in the Olympia School District for whatever reasons. And they intermix with families, here in Shelton. And this is going to be something that does hit the radar. So.
I appreciate what you're saying, Carrie, but at the same time, I just want to let the board know that we have 20 to 30 students above our projected enrollment. And districts like Olympia, North Thurston, and other districts have lost hundreds of kids. Okay, so we must be doing something right, or we wouldn't be where we are in terms of our enrollment. I believe that we planned extremely well to bring kids back. We had 150 staff and community members in 8 subgroups. We have communicated the direction that we're currently involved with. And we will do the same as it relates to the fall. But let's face it, the best laid plans could be undermined depending on where the pandemic is during the summer and the fall. So we can communicate a plan, but the plan could be undermined with where the COVID is in the fall or during the summer. But we've done an excellent job communicating our program and our plan. And I feel grateful and thankful to the board, to our families, to our staff, in terms of where we're positioned at this time. Personally, I don't compare ourselves to anybody. I believe we're doing great. People have told us that we're doing a great job. Teachers are telling us that we're doing a great job, that we're looking out for their welfare, that we're protecting our kids and families in this very difficult time. So I try to do the best that I can as your superintendent, and I pass that on, that we need to do the very best for our kids, to our staff and the cabinet. And I believe we're doing extremely well. And we're capable at this time bringing back kids. We could increase the number of K2 kids. We could send out a message that if there are K2 kids that want to come back, we can talk with our unions, we can talk with our teachers, and we can take the first step in doing that. But it all depends what you want to do. But I just feel thankful for where we are right now. Could we do more? Absolutely, we could do more. But timing is everything.
Well, there's 2 other issues I guess I keep in mind, and one of them Dr. Apostle touched on is this going to force us, if we choose to make a change, is this going to force us to go back to the meeting rooms with all of our unions?
Yes.
And how long would that take? And so then how much time or whatever would we really get out of that for the kids.
It's a very good point, Sally. It's not only the time that it would take a considerable amount of time, but right now,
And then you also are looking at, we already made these agreements, not just the time, it's the trust and relationships. And what would that do there? And my other issue is this, as a board, when are we planning on coming back in person? And what's that going to look like? Because, well, the last day of the month, I going to a specialist, but I'm still not vaccinated. And I'm still being very, very careful. So what, if I'm doing that, I'm worried about what does it look like to our community as with me as a board member if I'm being cautious. That weighs on my mind.
quite frankly, I think they're appreciative of the fact that we've been cautious, that you've been cautious as a board, and that we as an administration have been cautious in bringing kids back in a safe environment. You know, you mentioned something, and I mentioned it, I don't know if you were here at the time this afternoon. You go back to the table and start negotiating based on the next 30 days. And, you know, we have great harmony with all of our unions right now. We've worked hard to have that relationship. You go back and you start dealing with a new MOU, there's a possibility that that harmony could go out the window. And so I worry about those things. I don't know if Sally, is she still with us?
Yep, sorry. I just had a young man walking around behind me, so.
Brownfield's with us or not.
Yeah, I still am. I'm just, it says I'm unstable. Heck, I already knew that.
Anyway, there's a risk to everything in life. We've got a good thing going right now, but let me tell you, I work with you and for you. And if you feel that we need to do something more in terms of bringing back students immediately, that's exactly what we're going to do. And we know how to do it. We know how to do it. And we will communicate the plan for next fall, even though it's not going to be easy because we're in an environment where things change week by week. You know that as well as I do, with the information that comes from the governor, the information that comes from the state, OSBI, things are in constant change. And, you know, that takes a tremendous amount of energy and effort to keep up with that change over a year's time. And our teachers, quite frankly, and so are we, we're tired. I mean, this has been really difficult. And so, but whatever you want to do, whatever it is that you want to do, we will do. No question.
To me, Alex, I think it's more important than communicating our plans as it is to getting the feedback. I think it's more important to ask our teachers and ask our students and ask our parents, you know, what doesn't work and what does. And I think that is going to be what helps us create more smooth plans in the fall, because I think you're absolutely right. It's going to be, I think we should be planning for the multiple scenarios, which you're doing, and you can communicate that, but I don't think you can say this is what we're going to do in the fall until we get to the fall. I mean,
exactly.
That's going to be the tough part.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to be very nimble, very flexible in terms of our planning, because we don't really know for sure what's going to happen in the fall. But I can assure you we will be ready, just like we have been ready in terms of this hybrid model. I mean, we've detailed this plan out. It took weeks of tremendous effort and input from the community and staff, but it was flawless when we implemented it. And I can guarantee you in the fall, I will pass on a plan or plans to the board and to the new superintendent that will be the same. They will work because they will have been well thought out and well communicated. But I just want to give credit where it's due, and that's to our staff and to our families and to our kids and to you. We've done a good job. We've done a great job, actually. If we weren't doing a great job, we would hear about it. We would hear about it. And I don't know, maybe you're hearing something different, but I'm sure not hearing anything derogatory towards the way we're operating at the present time. So.
All right, so we do have a few other things on our agenda. Are there any more comments from board members? Okay.
So Sally, basically we're gonna, what you're communicating or what the board has communicated is that it'll be status quo at this time.
That's what I'm hearing, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so moving on to item number 2, which is budget update.
So we're supposed to go now, is that right, Alex? I'm sorry, Sally, to interrupt you.
Cabinet's excused except for Terry and Brenda.
Okay. I'm leaving. Sally Carr, thank you so much for hanging in there to that meeting.
Oh, you're welcome.
And it turned out, it turned out in a positive note in the end, so thank you.
Yeah, oh, you bet.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Marianne.
Okay, you want me to start, Alex?
Sally, would you like Brenda to start? Okay.
Okay. We just wanted to give you a little update. Right now I'm working in 3 different years because of the audit, so bear with me if I name the wrong year. So I'm trying to keep them all separate. But so for the budget update for our current year, 2020-21, we're still looking good, being in the $4 million mark. Probably about 4.5 is where I'm anticipating right now for ending fund balance. Our enrollment did go up 18 FTE this month, which that's wonderful news. And I'm hoping to see that again, just because we are bringing the kids back, and I think people are starting to want to come back. So that's helping us. We're getting some homeschool students back in, that type of thing. So of course that helps our revenue. One of the pieces I need to continue to watch on revenue, though, is food services, because our meals aren't going up, they're going down. Even though we have students in person, the meals are free. They're not taking the meals as much. So I'm seeing some numbers go down there. So we need to pay attention to that. Transportation, of course, we still don't have word from legislature which direction they're going, whether I'm backfilling with ESSER funds or if they're going to give us state money to take care of the transportation revenue that I'm not receiving right now. So we're waiting for that. Hopefully by Sunday, we will know something and we can move on with this. Another piece I'll be looking at this time of year normally is running reports to look to see if we need to do any budget extensions in any of our funds. I'm not anticipating anything except possibly general fund due to the ESSER money, because that's going to increase expenditure and revenue. So I'm not sure if I have enough capacity in there to cover it. So I'll be looking at that to see if we need to do a budget extension there. You will see at the next board meeting on Tuesday, I'll do a March budget status. I haven't had a chance to run it yet. I'm going to go after this meeting and go run it and get it to Allison. But typically March does go down a little bit from where we were. And then of course, April is tax month, and I've been getting reports from the county that our taxes are coming in very strong this month. So you'll see a big spike in the fund balance, and then we'll just slowly taper off to the end of the year typically. So that's the current year budget update. Are there any questions on where we're at right now?
Basically, we're looking pretty good because our enrollment is held. That's the bottom line here.
We are above budget by about 32 FTE, I believe, right now.
32 FTE times.
About $8,600 per student. So
that's quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
And again, that is a tribute to our families. I've said it many times, but I'll say it again, that they've stuck with us, and our students and our staff it takes everybody, the board, everyone working together to maintain that kind of an enrollment in these very challenging times. So,
All right. So any questions or comments, or are we ready to move to item number 3? All right. So let's move to item number 3, which is budget development update for the next school year.
Okay, so this one is 2021-22, which is very hard for me to say right now. So we've already started the process. Actually, the past 2 weeks, we've been doing staffing meetings with every principal. Last week, we did all the elementaries. This week, we just finished today. Actually, we had 3 meetings today, and we've got them all cranked out now. It's been initial look at their certificated and classified staffing. What the plan is, I'll be doing 3 budgets this year. I'll be doing an online staffing budget. I'll be doing a hybrid staffing budget, and I'll be doing a face-to-face staffing budget. So we'll have 3 personnel budgets running into there. And, you know, we know what Alex said. We know what all 3 look like. So, you know, we're pretty prepared as to what I'll be plugging in for staffing on all of those. The plan is hopefully that legislature finishes on Sunday on time. And then they will be, OSPI will be programming our F203 software, which usually takes 2 weeks from that date. And then I can run revenue forecasts on what basic ed, LAP, that type of thing will generate. And then we're going to come back through with the schools again, do another budget meeting with them to look at what it looks like for staffing again, now that I will have revenue numbers generated. So we're moving forward. Actually, it'll start cranking pretty quickly once I get the revenue forecasts, and then we can just start building and start doing some study sessions. Maybe we start again doing the weekly ones like we did where we update you on budget. That's what I'm thinking anyway. So part of that will be that we'll start the community budget advisory committee again as we get those numbers and start getting into more detail. And that will include some of the ESSER money too. We'll have them input on that type of thing too. So.
All right, questions or comments for Brenda?
Brenda, can you remind me, what is the timeline for you? Sorry.
That's okay.
The timeline when you need to turn your budget in.
I have to have it to the ESD by July 10th. So we'll be getting it finalized down to where it really needs to be by then so I can get it into them.
Okay, thanks.
You will adopt the last board meeting in August, but they have to have a product by then. So
for the sake of communication, Sally, I think we should continue what we did last budget development session, where we would meet on Thursdays, even if it was for a short meeting, but to keep the board informed in terms of revenue and potential expenditures and cash balance and those types of things, and staffing types of issues that may arise. So that's up to you if you want to continue to do that this budget process, but I would highly recommend it.
All right, well, I'll check in with board members and get back to you about that.
Yeah, very good.
What are we thinking we're going to use as an enrollment number? We're going to.
Well, Alex and I haven't talked about that in total detail yet. So we'll be doing that in the next couple of weeks because I have to have that to run the F203. So we'll be talking to you about that also.
Sandy, that's a very good question. And it's more complex this time around than ever based on obvious factors. But we've got to be, so to speak, right on the money on that one. We've got to be closer than ever before in terms of that number. So it's going to take some discussion with you as a board and with all the data that we can gather to make the best possible decision. We never want to overestimate revenue. We've always been very conservative in the 6 years that I've been here, or 5 years that I've dealt with this issue. I would highly recommend that, of course, based on the information we gather, that we're rather conservative again. But we'll see how all that works out in terms of the information that we gather and share with you and get your idea on how you want us to proceed. I will give my best recommendation. And of course, you'll have the final word on that.
Thank you.
So have we, along those lines, I know that part of what we look at are incoming students. And so I know our kindergarten numbers were a little lower than maybe we expected this year. Are we expecting higher kindergarten numbers? And when are we going to do another big push for kindergarten registration? Since I'm thinking that one may drive some of what we do, especially at the elementary schools.
That was discussion last week, actually, with the 3 elementaries on that piece. They are anticipating we will have higher enrollment for kindergarten, especially for those parents that chose not to send their kindergartners last year. So, you know, we've talked about pricing portable classrooms because you can use some of the ESSER money to do that type of thing. So we're working on that. I'm not sure the dates. Do you know, Alex? I know Marianne is doing a kindergarten registration right now, I believe, or it's soon. I don't know the exact date, but.
I've
Do we
seen,
do half?
I've
go ahead.
seen things on social media about kindergarten, like get ready for kindergarten type advertisements. So it looks like they are already putting that out there.
I thought that was the case. I just didn't know the exact timing of it.
I just saw the date today and I can't recall the date.
Are we doing half day or full day kindergarten?
We're full day.
Full day.
We're full day.
All right, other questions or comments?
Do we have any other bubbles in grade levels of students? You know, any grade levels that are?
Yes, there is one. Oh, my stuff is such a mess today after all these meetings. Let me see if I can find it. There is a bubble, but we have staffing. I can't remember. I think it's at Mountain View, like at 3rd grade, that's pushing through. But we have the staffing there that will just follow that bubble is the plan. So.
Okay, and it's only in the one building.
Yeah, that's the only one that really has. We had, I think, 6 teachers at that grade level this year currently. So we'll just shift them up with that bubble.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So moving on then to item 4, which is the CARES Act grants 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen on this one just to give you the layout of something I put together here. So as you know, we have 3 of them. The current one is also called CARES money. This one, they're really ESSER money, but this one has the CARES logo in front of it. And so I need to move this back up where it belongs. It got moved down. It's because it's Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act on that one. That one we will receive $975,237, which is 90% of the allocation that the federal government gave us. We do have till September of 2022 to spend it, but we will be spending it by August 31st at the latest. I believe it will actually be totally spent before then. This one is based on receiving Title I funding in 2019-20 for that one. And again, you must spend the money with district funds, and then you wait for the reimbursement. You can do the claim the following month. So we're using our money and then we get reimbursed, you know, potentially a month and a half later. And again, that one will be spent, I believe it'll be spent possibly by the end of June, from what I'm seeing in there right now. The ESSER 2 funds.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Could we eventually here, what I'd like to do is to have a specific, a spreadsheet that we can send to the board as far as how this money was expended.
Oh,
And
that'll be easy. Yep.
I know we have it, but I would like for the board to know specifically how that money was spent.
Yep. Yep. I can actually get that to them. I can email it to them if you want.
Thank you.
Okay. ESSER 2 is a different, it's Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act. Again, we received 90% of the total federal allocation on this one. It's a little over $3.6 million. This one was based on if you received Title I funding in the current fiscal year, the 2021 year. We don't have the grant submitted right now. I'm putting in the budget field for it to make sure all the account codes are correct for where we're going to spend it, so we don't have to do a bunch of budget revisions. And then again, it will be that we have to spend it and then get reimbursed. Not all of it is truly allocated out for expenses. We're using it to finish paying for K-12. We have some things that Robert bought through for PPE, the hand washing stations, that type of thing. Those will go in there. We're planning to have the Budget Advisory Committee help with this to allocate how this money should be spent. And so we'll be working on that. Then the next one, the ESSER 3, has not been released yet. We do know the amount of money we'll receive. But
Brenda, excuse me, could we go back to
yeah,
please?
yes,
We have until September 2023 to spend that money.
yes.
One of the things that we will discuss even in relation to ESSER 3 money is that in our meetings, in our superintendent meetings and in Brenda's meetings, we are being told, be very careful how you expend the money, because you should stay away from spending it on staffing, because this money will go away in 2023, and we know what happens then. We will be in trouble. So we're moving forward and not using that money for additional staffing. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. So ESSER 3 hasn't been released. This was also based on the 2021 Title I application. So we do have our estimate there. It's 8.2 million. 20% of this must be used on learning loss activities. So the district's plan is to use more than 20% and also allocate some of ESSER 2 funds towards the learning loss activities. So once that grant application is released, we'll get in there and start filling that out and get it submitted. But at this point, it still hasn't been released for us to do that. One key piece to this is these are all federal dollars. I believe I spoke at the last board meeting about the state is wanting us possibly to use some of the ESSER 2 money to backfill our transportation that they did not fund. So I'm still waiting to see how that's going to play out. So that might be a piece that we will be using that money for. This most likely will be audited in the next years to come due to the large amounts of it. They typically pick the larger federal funds to audit. So I'm anticipating these ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds will be part of our audit in the years to come. So.
Brenda, if I may, this coincides directly with the recovery plan that the state wants us to complete, and it's due by June 1, and we just got the template this week. But some of this money will definitely be utilized in relation to our recovery to bring everyone up to speed in terms of our students and so on. So one of the stipulations of the recovery plan is that we must present the recovery plan to the board before June 1st. The timeline is, in my opinion and in the opinion of other superintendents, very unrealistic. The fact that we need to share this plan with the board. It's what, April 22nd. We just received the template this week. And we have to go through It's an in-depth recovery plan, which will include some of the things that Carrie was concerned with in terms of our plan for the fall. But we need to bring this forward to the board before we submit it to the state on June 1st. So we're currently working on the plan, which I'm sure you'll be interested in when we share it with you. But this is where a lot of the money will come from in relation to that plan.
Yeah, and again, all three of them, you must use district funds and spend district funds first and then claim the reimbursement. So,
And stay away from adding staff.
yes, yes.
Will we ever see the remaining 10% out of each of these funds?
It doesn't sound like it. I was watching in the legislature this last session. Actually, it was in when Dan Steele did his presentation. It doesn't look like they're going to give us that. So
I think that money is gone.
yeah.
Is that it's gone from the federal government, or is that this was allocated to the state and the state holds on to 10% for the administration of that? Isn't that typical?
Yeah, the state has the money. They just start releasing it to the districts.
Right. It's very typical that they would take at least that much.
They have it. They won't be releasing it either.
Not to us.
And the deadline for filing the recovery plan, I thought I picked up June 1st and July 1st. It is June 1st.
June 1st.
June 1st. Okay, thank you.
It has to be presented to the board before we submit it on June 1st. So the timeline, much to the discontent of superintendents, is unrealistic, but we're going to do it, of course, and get it done.
Thank you.
You bet.
All right, anything else on this item? Okay. So next we have an exempt session talking about personnel. So Bob, are we planning, I'm assuming we're planning on that to be in a breakout room, is that correct?
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay, perfect. So will Brenda be arranging that? Or will you?
Well, I think Brenda's smiling, and since I cannot arrange it if I'm not here, and I don't think I'm invited to that particular aspect of the meeting, so I'm thinking Brenda is going to take this over.
I can do it.
Is that a correct understanding, Brenda?
Yes, I will be in the exempt session also, so I can do it.
Okay. All right. I will end my aspect of this, and I will forward co-hosting duties to Brenda.
Okay.